Welcome to IT Handy Guide tutorial. My name is Kevin. In this tutorial, we are going to introduce how to install MySql. Firstly, you have to Google MySql community server. So when you Google this, then go to the first one. Over here, there are two archive files. You don't use the archive file, so you go to the download page. In the download page, you can download the Microsoft installer, and look at this. This is 5.5 megabyte, and this is 448.3 megabyte. In this case, which one do you want to install? If you download this one is actually a web installer. What is the web installer? Web installer means when you install, it also download. So the second one, the file is bigger. This is a standalone installer. Standalone installer means it downloads everything into your hard drive, then you can install offline if you like. In this case, I'm going to choose the second one. So you can download this one, go to here, and in here you can log in or sign up in order to download. However, if you don't want to sign up, you can say, no thanks, just start my download. So it will start to download the MSI file. Okay, if you want to install the old version, you go to the archive. Over here, you can select all the old version. And here, you can select your operation system. Alright, so in our tutorial, I'm going to install the latest one. I'm going to download the latest one. What I have done is, I have downloaded 8.0.29. And I also download the latest one, that is 8.0.30. I'm going to install 8.0.29 because in this video, I'm going to show you how to install MySql. However, in this video, I'm going to show you how to update the version of MySql. So I'm going to install the older version in this video. In this case, I double click this one. So it will start to open the installer, and I download the standalone installer. So this is why it is bigger. This is 450 megabyte. It will take a while to open the installer. In this case, I'm going to show you this. When you open the installer, okay, come back to here, press yes. When you open the installer, it will ask you which one do you want to install. The first one is the developer default. This one is for the development environment. And server only. This one is for the production environment. Client only. We normally don't choose this one. So, okay, come back to here, press yes. Client only means your SQL Server is installed in computer B, and you are install the client in the computer A. In this case, your computer A need to use client software to connect the SQL Server, MySql Server in the computer B. In this case, in computer A, you can install client only, and in the computer B, you can install server only. And what I do is, if I install developer default, it actually also install the client only. So develop default actually combine the client and also developer environment. Full means you are going to install everything. You are going to install development environment and also a server environment. So you are going to install both of these. And custom means you only want to install the component that you want to install. And in this case, because I'm going to because this computer, this virtual machine is the development environment. So I'm going to choose the first one, that is the development default. So I press next. Over here, here asking to fulfill the additional requirement for the specific MySql Server product. In my case, I don't need this specific MySql Server product, so I can just ignore it and click next. Alright, in this case, look at this. This is MySql for Visual Studio, okay? But I don't have Visual Studio, so I don't need this. This is the connector to Python, and I don't have a Python in this computer, so I can ignore this. In this case, I just press next. It will ask me, are you sure you want to ignore this? Then you can press yes. Alright, so this is the rest of things that I can install. In this case, I am going to press execute. Then it will start to install. It will take like 10 to 20 minutes to install this. So I'm going to stop recording. Hi, I'm back. After about 10 to 15 minutes, it finally installed everything. So it installs SQL Server, Workbench, Shell, Router, and connectors, a lot of connectors, and the MySql documentation, and also install the sample database. So now if I click next, it will ask me to configuration. It will ask me to configure everything. Configure MySql Server, configure MySql Router, and configure the sample database. So if you come back to here, if I click next, it will start to configure MySql Server. And have you heard about Microsoft SQL Server? When you install Microsoft SQL Server, we normally do configuration first, and then we install the Microsoft SQL Server. But when I install MySql, they actually install first and then do the configuration. It's opposite. So I'm going to press next. Okay, in here, it will ask me which computer are you using? It's a development computer, server computer, or dedicated computer. If you look at this, this is the development computer, and many other applications will be installed on it. A minimum amount of memory will be used by MySql. Look at this, minimum amount of memory. The second one is several server applications will be running on this computer. Choose this option for web application server. So it will say medium memory usage. And look at this one. MySql will make use of all available memory. So this is the minimum memory, medium memory, and all of your memory. And this computer is the development computer. So I choose the first one. So here you are. Server and the dedicated computer is for the real world application. Server computer will use medium memory. Dedicated computer will use full memory. And if I choose development computer, that will use the minimum memory. Okay, so this is the next. By default, MySql Server will use TCP/IP port 3306 and the X protocol port 33060. You don't have to worry about what is the X protocol. It's just a part of protocol, part of TCP/IP. Well, it's not really true, but you just think about the simple way. It's just the port 3306 and the 33060. Okay, MySql Server will use these two ports and under TCP/IP protocol. And when you enable Open Windows Firewall ports for network access, it means it will create inbound rule for port 3306 and the port 33060 on firewall. It means when the firewall is on, the message comes from port 3306 and the port 33060 will still be allowed to go through the firewall. What does that mean? Okay, so this is our firewall. If you search firewall, you will see Windows Firewall, Windows Defender Firewall. Okay, so this is our firewall. If you want to turn firewall on and off, you click this, and then you can turn off if you like, or you can turn on if you like. So this is the way. See, turn Windows Defender Firewall on or off. Click that, so you can turn on and turn off your firewall. If you search the firewall again, this is the firewall, and this is firewall. Let me type more. Okay, allow Defender. Okay, this one, Windows Defender Firewall with advanced security. Okay, if you choose advanced security, it will have an inbound rule and the outbound rule. Inbound rule means the message comes from outside to our local machine. Outbound rule means the message comes from our local machine out of someone else. Okay, so this is inbound and outbound. All right, so when you enable this, it will create the inbound rule for port 3306 and the port 33060. So it will create inbound rule for these two ports. Okay, so that means when the firewall is on, anything come from these two ports are still allowed to go through the firewall. Okay, if I have the inbound rule. So in this case, I just use the default setting, tick these two, and make sure the port is 3306 and 33060. Okay, so I'm going to press next. Okay, over here, it asks me, do you want to use the strong password encryption? Since MySql server version 8, okay, since version 8, MySql introduced strong password authentication. Please note, if your version under 7.4 will not be able to use strong password authentication. Okay, so if your version is like 7.5, about 7.4, then you will be able to use the strong password. And if your SQL server, if your PHP version under 7.4, then you can't use this one. Okay, and my PHP version, if I search PHP for Windows, I go here, download. So I'm pretty sure my PHP version is 8.1, so I can use the strong password. So I'm going to click next. Okay, over here, it will ask me to create the password for root. All right, in MySql server, they have a very special username. It's called root, and the Microsoft SQL server is a Microsoft one. Okay, they have a special user for SA. The root is similar to SA in Microsoft SQL server. And with this one, I'm going to type the password for root. And you can type whatever password you like. Better to remember this password, and the password better be very strong. And if you are using MAMP, M-A-M-P, okay, XAMPP or MAMP, SAMP or MAMP, okay, is their bundled tool to install MySql, Apache, and PHP. If you are using SAMP, your username is root, and you don't have password for root. You have to set out the password file your PHP myadmin. If you are using MAMP, they will automatically give you the password for root, and root password is also root. Okay, but in real world, please don't use root as your password. Try to use something else. Okay, from me, because I try to be easier to teach you how to install MySql server, so I'm going to type ROOT for my password. Okay, over here, I want to create a new user because I don't want to use root everywhere. Some of the PHP developers, they use root in their PHP project. They shouldn't do that. They should create a new user and use the new user username, password, and to the connection string in order to don't use the root username. Okay, in this case, I'm going to add a new user, and this is my username. It's called test user, and this is my password. It's called MySql 8. MySql 8 in this case is like MySql version 8. And the host, you can choose local host or host. The role, you can choose DB admin or backup admin or DB designer or DB manager. Okay, be honest with you, most of the time we will choose the local host. Okay, for just the local machine. Okay, and the role we normally choose DB manager. But because I want to teach you how to use the SQL Server with the most powerful permission, so I choose all host, and also I choose the DB admin. But in real situation, I normally choose localhost, and I normally choose DB manager, because this is just for the security purpose. I don't want to give too much permission in this role. Okay. So over here, you can choose different role. Over here, you can choose localhost or all host. In my case, I just choose everything right now. So this is the default setting, DB admin, and this is all host. I press OK. Oh, this one, authentication MySql. One more thing. If you are .NET developer, when you install Microsoft SQL Server, then you have 3 options. The first one is called SQL Server Authentication. Second one is called Windows Authentication. The third one is called Mix. Okay, what is the Windows Authentication? Windows Authentication means if you can log in the Windows, then you also can get into the SQL Server straight away without any further login. And SQL Server Authentication means every time when you open SQL Server, you have to type the username and password in SQL Server in order to log in to your SQL Server. Okay, so that's the difference. This one, when you log in Windows, you also can log in SQL Server. This one, even though you can log into the Windows, then you still have to enter the username and password to log in the SQL Server. Even though you can log into Windows, you still have to enter the username and password to the SQL Server. So this is the SQL Server Authentication. Mix means you can do both. Okay. And the MySql, they only can do the MySql authentication. They don't have Windows authentication. So in this case, there's no choice. You just select that one. So you press OK to create a new user. Okay, so I'm going to click Next. Over here, configure my SQL Server as a Windows service. What does that mean? It means it is going to create a new service. Is called MySql. Okay, it will add MySql Server to the Service Manager. It will add MySql Server to the Service Manager, and the service name will call MySql 80. 80 means 8.0, version 8.0, and start the MySql Server at system startup. Means every time when you restart the computer, the SQL Server, MySql Server service will start up as well. Okay, so every time when you log into Windows or when you restart the computer, the SQL Server, MySql Server will always start. And this one, standard system account, means when you log into Windows, then you will be able to start the MySql service. This one means when you log in this specific username, then they will start the MySql Server service. So we always choose the first one. Okay, that makes it easier. So if I click Next, let me show you this first. At the moment, I don't have any MySql service. Okay, I don't have any service called MySql 80, and I'm going to click Next. So over here, I have to configure everything. So if I click Execute, okay, coming here, I keep pressing refresh. I can see, oh, there's a service is called MySql 80. Okay, so this is what we have just done to add the service is called MySql 80 into the Service Manager. Okay, so when you finish that, you can close this one, press Finish. It will tell you, oh, configuration complete. So you have configured MySql Server. So what I'm going to do is going to configure MySql Router. So if I go into Next, by default, you don't have to configure the MySql Router. And be honest with you, you can configure MySql Router if necessary later. So you can just press Finish. In this case, that will say configuration not needed. That means I haven't configured MySql Router, but I don't actually need it. So I'm going to press Next. Oh, before I press next, I have to show you this. It's sample and example. What does that mean? That means I'm going to configure sample database into my MySQL server. In this case, they will ask you to enter your username and password. By default, you have a root username, and my password is also called RRT. Then they check the username and password. Okay, that means your username and password is correct. Then I'm going to install the sample database. I click next. Execute. So now they are going to install the sample database into my SQL server. You can see the log if you like. Alright, if finish, you just press finish. So now it's a configuration complete, configuration complete. So that means I have done my SQL server, I have done the sample, and I have done the sample database, but I didn't do anything for my SQL router. So I press next. Okay, so I just finished every process. So if I press finish, it will start my SQL workbench. It will also start my SQL shell. So I press finish. So now it will open my SQL shell, and also it will open my SQL workbench. It will take a while to open. So if you look at this, we have done all of this. Okay, so this is my SQL workbench. I can close that. This is my SQL shell. If you see this, that is over here, shell and the workbench. And after you run, I just press refresh, F5 to refresh. After you install MySQL server, it will automatically start up the MySQL service. So you can restart, stop. Okay, in my case, I can just do restart if you like. Alright, so that's going to here to show you something. Yep, okay. So what have you done is, if you go to Control Panel, Program and Feature. Okay, if you go to Program and Feature, and here are all the MySQL stuff. Okay, this one is not, just this. And also this one, this two is the virtual C++. Alright, so I'm going to C drive. And the reason, let's go to the 64-bit program file. So in the 64-bit program file, I go to the MySQL. I can see there's a connector C++, connector ODBC, and the MySQL router, MySQL server, shelf, workbench. They all belong to 64-bit. They all belong to 64-bit. Okay, in this case, you need to have virtual C++ 64-bit in order to run all of this. However, some of the stuff in MySQL, they are written by 32-bit. In this case, you need 32-bit virtual C++ to run this. Therefore, you should install both virtual C++. Okay. What is next? Oh, when you install MySQL, over here, it will say open Windows firewall ports for network access. So that means it will set up your inbound rule for these two ports. Okay, it will set up inbound rule for these two ports. So how can I check that? Firstly, you can go to the firewall. Okay, this is my firewall. At the moment, the firewall is currently on. So I am going to firewall advanced setting. So this is firewall advanced security. Over here, I go to inbound rule. I can see there's a port 3306 and a port 33060. If I click that, I go to port and protocol. I can see this is the protocol TCP, and the local port is 3306. Remote port is all ports. That means when someone else send a message, when other computers send a message into my local machine, and I don't care other computer I don't care other computer port. That means all port. All port means I don't care other computer port. And local port, if the local port is 3306, then you can go through our firewall. Okay, same as this one. If there's anything come from outside into port 33060, then you are okay to pass the firewall. Okay, so this is these two inbound rule. Because when I install MySql, I tick this one, open Windows firewall port for network access. Then it creates two inbound rule for these two ports. Okay, so this is how it counts. Alright, next. I'm going to create a new database. It's called my testdb1. So in this case, I'm going to show you MySql command line client. There are two client-side software. The first one is called command line client. The second one is Workbench. Okay, these two are client-side software. This one is user interface, graphic user interface. This one is just a command line. So I'm going to show you the command line first. When you open the command line, you have to enter the password for root. Then you can do show database. In this case, I'm going to type show database. So it will show me all the database I have. This is all the database I have. So I have an information schema, MySql performance schema, Sakila system words. So I'm going to create a new database. It's called my testdb1. So this is new database. So if I show database again, I can see I have just to create a new database. Okay, so if I go to MySql Workbench, here you are. This is MySql Workbench. Okay, if I go to MySql Workbench, I have a two-way that I can log into root user. Firstly, I can click this one. Then I can type my password for root. Then I can log into root. Okay. If you see that is called local instance. But if you use this one, connect to database, and they will use the host name is this. Then you connect to root. So this is the second way you can connect to root. But look at this IP address, 127.0.0.1. That is normally for the local host, and I use the port 3306. So I'm going to connect the other one. The other one, I have the other user is called test user. Okay, so this is my test user. So I click OK, and then I'm going to type the password. I think the password is called MySql8. So now I just connect with my test user. Okay, this one. So I have a 3 connection right now. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all. Okay. I'm going to close these two. Close that one, just to use the local one. Okay, if I go to the schema, I can see all of the database I have. But look at this clearly. They don't have information schema and they don't have performance schema, because these two are the hidden database that is for MySql server. Okay, so you shouldn't touch anything under these two information. Sakila is just a simple database. I think Word is also a simple database. I can't remember system. Yeah, but it doesn't really matter. Tables. Yeah, I can't remember this one. Anyway, these two, they are simple database I have just installed before, and this is the database I have just created. So that's all database we have, except these two are hidden database, and I shouldn't touch anything in here. Okay. So next one, I'm going to configure PHP and MySql. At the moment, I already installed MySql server. I have to let my PHP to know, okay, here is my SQL server. You can connect to PHP. So what's going on is, I need to go to, let me close these two. I don't need this. Okay. So before you do anything, you should restart Apache and the MySQL service just for secure. So I'm going to Service Manager, restart Apache, and then restart MySQL. You don't have to restart if you like, but I try to restart, try to be more secure. Okay. Then I'm going to localhost. At the moment, where is the localhost? It's actually in Apache. Ooh. It's in Apache. And the HT document. This one is my home page. So I click that. It actually echo hello world, which is this one, and PHP info, that is all of this. Okay, this is where my homepage come from. If I try to search MySQL, MySqli, that means I didn't install anything for MySqli yet. So I'm going to configure MySqli into PHP. In order to do that, I need to go to the PHP configuration file. So where is the PHP configuration file? So go to the C drive, PHP, and this one is my PHP configuration file. So I'm going to click open that. Oops. Edit in Notepad++. Okay, so this is my PHP configuration file. And you need to search extension directory. Okay, you need to search extension directory. So here is my extension directory. Okay, in PHP, they have a lot of extension that you should install. At the moment, they didn't install any extension because we didn't tell PHP where is the extension directory. So where is the extension directory? Let me show you. This is a C drive, PHP, and here we have an ext. Okay, in ext, you have to copy this, paste to here, and uncomment this. So I have just set up the extension directory. So this is a location which contains a lot of DLL. Each DLL is the extension. Okay, so we just set up the extension directory. So now I can enable extension. Let me show you. You can search MySql, Control F, search MySql. So you will find this. These are extension. How can I know that? Look at this. BZ2. This is BZ2. This is CURL. This is CURL. So I'm pretty sure these are the PHP extension. Okay, because they represent this name. Okay. All right. So what extension I should enable? These are all the extension I should enable, but I'm going to enable first and explain later. So I'm going to enable BC2 CURL, and I'm going to enable file info, and I'm going to enable MB string. I'm going to enable OpenSSL and enable PDO MySQL. And enable the last one, PDO SQLite. This one, right? Let me double check. Yep, that's true. Okay. All good. Okay, these are extensions I'm going to enable. And then I'm going to explain why. Okay, the first one is BC2. BC2 extension means using the open source compression software. When I say the compression software, it's like a 7-zip, okay, or WinRAR. But BZ2 is actually the compression software in Unix or Linux system. And we might use the Linux server in the future. Therefore, we should always enable BC2. Okay. Next one is the CURL. CURL is necessary for PHP MyAdmin. Okay, I'm going to install PHP MyAdmin, so I'm pretty sure I have to enable this extension. It allows us to receive or send information via URL syntax. Okay, so it always look at this: receive and send information. If you change the other word, is receive and send message via URL syntax. It's just like API. Next one, file info. File info extension is for read file information like content type. Okay, like content type. GD is for image creation and manipulation. I'm not sure. I just guess. Okay, I just guess. GD stands for graphic design or something. I'm not sure. Okay, this one is the gettext. Gettext extension can look at the message in current domain. That means under current domain, I'm going to look at the message. Look at this message. Okay, it's like a API stuff. All right. So in this case, we normally enable this, and this. Okay, we normally enable this, and this together. All right. Next, MB string. MB string extension is to read multi-byte characters such as Chinese characters. Okay, English character occupy 1 byte, Chinese character occupy 2 bytes. If your website want to have a multi-language, then you should enable MB string. And when you enable MB string, you also should enable EXIF. I don't know why. See? Must be after MB string as it depending on it. I don't know why we normally enable these two. I don't know why, but I know if I want to have a multi-language, then I should always enable multi-string, MB string, and also enable this one. Okay, this one, and this one. This is for MySql server. Okay, this is for MySql server. Just enable these three. OpenSSL. This is for encryption. Okay, encryption. So that's pretty much all. That's all you should enable. Okay, that's all you should enable. The next one, after I change the PHP INI, and I have to restart. Okay, I have to restart Apache. Why? Because in a Apache configuration over here. Okay, it asks me where is my PHP INI directory. I say this is C drive PHP. So in this case, if I change anything in the PHP INI, this is the PHP configuration. I also have to restart. Apache. And because I enable MySql server extension, so I should enable MySql server service as well. But anyway, if you are not sure, just enable both. Okay, always enable both, just for secure. Then you don't have to remember too many things. Every time when you restart Apache, you can also restart MySql server if you like. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So now I'm going to localhost again. So this is my localhost. So at the moment, if I try to search MySql, okay, that means I enable MySql, and I also enable OpenSSL, like this. Okay, 1.2, this is for SAP user, and you can have a look if you like. If you are using SAP, by default, they already enable everything except extension GD and the extension OpenSSL. Okay, this is the computer which I installed SAP. Let me show you. I have a 3 virtual machine right now. Okay, the first computer I installed SAP. Okay, I go to this place, C drive, SAMP. Over here, I'm going to click, where is it? PHP INI, PHP INI, PHP and PHP INI over here. Okay, search MySql. Okay, you can search extension. I think that is called extension directory. Okay, see, extension directory, that is under SAMP, PHP ext. So if you go to PHP ext, they are all extension over here. And I'm going to enable MySql. Okay, by default, they already enable everything except they didn't enable this. They also didn't enable this. So if you install SAMP, try to enable this one and this one. That's all. Okay, what is next? Okay, so be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I have done the MySql server already. Okay, but I just want to do the double confirm. So I'm going to create a PHP file with the connection string to read the data from the database. So I'm going to do this. So I'm going to modify my index.php. So here is my index.php. Apache htd document. Right click, edit Notepad++. At moment, it echo the hello world. Okay, and then PHP information. That's all. I'm going to change to this. Okay, so I still echo the hello world, and then I'm going to create a connection string. In this connection string, where is my SQL server? Sorry, where is my MySql server? MySql server is currently in localhost, and this is the username, that is test user, and this is the password for the test user. And which database are you going to connect? My test DB1. If I open Workbench, if I open the Workbench and connect to the root, go to the schema, you will see, oh, I have a database, it's called my test DB1. So I'm going to type my test DB1, and after that, if it didn't connect, then return the error message. Die. Die means don't do anything. Okay. If connection success, it will jump out this if, and then echo nice database connected, and then print out the PHP information. So I'm going to show you F5 is a nice database connected. If I change the password to 9, then it will tell me, oh, this is the error message. And die. Die means don't do anything else. Okay. So I change this back. So I have just the proof my database connection is success. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I have done very well in the setting. So that's pretty much all. Oh, one more thing. You can also check your IP address. Property. So this is the first way you can check the IP address, is this one. The second way to check your IP address is type IP://config. So this is my IP address. Close that. I'm going to copy my IP address to here, so I can still see this, right? So I can also type the IP address in other computer. This is my local computer. I can still connect to my virtual machine. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I have done very well in configuration because the connection string work. That's all. Okay, I hope you enjoy my tutorial. Have a good day.